Hello, my fellow Americans. My name is George W. Bush. Remember me? I've been tasked with welcoming you to a new, groundbreaking, faith-inspired, God-centered podcast. So buckle up, my friends, because it's time to be prepared, because there will be a test. Really? I hate tests. Welcome to the one and only UpBecoming podcast, where it's not about my way, or Jeb's way, or even Daddy's way. It's about the highway. You know, the big guy in the sky? It's about his way. I gotta tell you, he beats me every time. Since life is about more than just what you become, or where you go, or what country you were the president of, the UpBecoming podcast will take you on a purpose-filled journey from a Christian worldview that will inspire you to consider the reality that you're not just becoming something or someone, but you're also upbecoming everything that isn't who God made you to be, so that you can be free to be who you were meant to be in the first place. So now, conservatives and liberals within the sound of my voice, on my watch, I give you a man of passion, conviction, and love. A true American with whom I give permission to move to the 51st state in the Union, Canada. Without further ado, from Down Home Studio 3A in the heart of Ottawa, Ontario, a man who is fairly balanced but liberally conservative, makes liberals scratch their heads and Condoleezza Rice blush. I call him friend. He calls me W. You can call him Mr. Jared R. Grover. My next president. Make him welcome.
Does that make you feel better?
Okay, does that make you feel better? Maybe a little bit. It's always nice to make people feel better. And welcome, everybody. Welcome to the second episode, the official second episode of the UpBecoming podcast here at Down Home Studios 3A. It's down home where I live here in beautiful Ottawa, Ontario. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining in. And I am finally here. I am here. I'm happy. I'm excited that I finally am doing this, making some progress. They say that one of the first and best steps with your podcast is to actually start doing things. So I'm glad that I'm here, and thank you for bearing with me as I learn all of these new things and these new steps and try to organize everything with my organizational skills not being up to par at all times. I will do my very best. So if you're listening in today from Screamer, Alabama, or believe it or not, there's a city in Alaska called Unalaska. If you're listening into Y, Arizona, not W-H-Y. Maybe it's spelled W-H-Y, but I guess it's because there was a Y-shaped intersection near some highways in that area, so they named the city Y, Arizona. Or Smackover, Arkansas. There's just the funny names go on. Believe it or not, there's a city in California called Rough and Ready. Oh, my goodness. It's silly. But welcome to the show, no matter where you're at. And hopefully, maybe I'll get somebody from Rough and Ready. But welcome either way. Here on the UpBecoming podcast, it is the idea is that if you're not growing, it's showing. Okay? And if I'm not growing, I'm going to do something. And so our last episode was with my good friend, Mr. Joshua Hyatt. It was a great conversation. We talked about a lot of kind of random things, randomicity, like I like to call it. We talked about some spiritual things and some Christian things and things like that. And it was great and it was appreciated. And today is no shortage of excitement with my friend Agnes, who I'll introduce to you in just a moment. I'm just going to go over a few things and do a little bit of housekeeping here at the beginning. Please Again, welcome to the UpBecoming podcast with your host, Mr. Jared Grover. And just remember to check us out. Search on Facebook for the UpBecoming podcast. Not the Unbecoming podcast, but now it's called the UpBecoming podcast. And also search Instagram and Facebook both. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under the UpBecoming podcast. And you'll find, please follow and like and all those good things. Just so we can get the ball rolling. Okay, let's see here. What's next here? Let's see here. So, thank you again for listening in. Thank you for going on this journey with me, because this really is a journey. The UpBecoming podcast is something I'm very passionate about it, because my desire is to be learning and to be growing and to be helping people and to be loving people and to be helping to kind of change the conversation a little bit, because of the fact that we're certainly living in a day and age where a lot of people just don't seem to be able to communicate with each other without kind of defaulting to being majorly offended or defaulting to getting angry. And certainly there are things in life that are going to frustrate us and make us angry and make us offended. But is it really impossible for people to choose to do the right thing? Is it impossible for people to make difficult choices? And over the past even the past few days, time and time again, I've been faced with situations where it's just brought me back to the importance of the reason why I want to do this podcast, to hear people's stories, to share my story, to hit on topics and things that are important to many different people. And so thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for understanding that this podcast it's an open topic podcast. There will be times where we'll talk about many different things. And if you don't like that style, I don't begrudge you for not listening, but I hope you'll listen, because you will hear things throughout each podcast that probably will be, and hopefully will be, something that will be very beneficial to you and all that good stuff. But there's a lot of other things that I could say, which we'll get into here, but I want to just kind of talk about how things have been going recently before I introduce my guest. So over the past few weeks, I had hoped to have done a podcast when I was in Maine, but it didn't work out to do that. Now, ideally, I think it was more of a priority for me and my wife to kind of focus on the vacation and enjoy that. And doing a podcast may have kind of ventured away from that goal. So I didn't get to do that, but we did have a great time. I'm from Maine. That's where I'm from. I live in Ottawa, but I'm from Maine. We're able to go back there once every summer and see some of my family, a lot of my family actually, and some of my dear and precious friends back there. And it's really always a very enjoyable, fun time for me because we get to get away from the city here. We get to do something different. We get to be off the regular routine, it's not, like my wife says, it's not restful, unfortunately, because we have 3 young kids, ages 2, 4, and 6, and you can imagine with kids, it's a little bit difficult to be restful if your kids, they're out of their regular schedule, so things are off and all that kind of stuff. But it is great. Okay, so that's what I've been doing, vacation and all that kind of stuff, so now, without further ado, I have my own pride, privilege, and pleasure to welcome somebody that I hope to be at least a generally frequent co-host with me, or a guest, my friend Miss Agnes McNally. We actually tried to record an episode while I tried, like I said, I tried to do an episode in Maine. It didn't work out for a couple of different reasons, but one of the reasons was because of the fact that it didn't record properly. So there was a lot of funny moments and things were great, and then at the end I checked it and it wasn't working. But thankfully, I've got myself prepared now. I'm ready. Everything's working. The volume's working. The recording's working. So now Miss Agnes McNally is here. And I just want to say, again, hello, my friend Agnes.
Hey.
It is really good to have you. It's great to be able to involve you in the podcast here. And I'm going to just share a little bit about you here first, and then I'm going to throw the ball over to you and ask you some questions and get you a chance to speak and open your mouth as well, so it's not just me talking a 1,000 miles a minute. So Agnes McNally graduated from Husson University in the psychology, clinical psychology major, and that's correct. That was your bachelor, right, Agnes?
My bachelor was psychology, and my master was clinical counseling.
Okay, so
I have my LCPC.
Wow, she is incredibly smart, even smarter than I, because I only have three or four Christian theology degrees, which is great, and I love it, but I should have a clinical psychology degree, although I love psychology, and I'm really excited
You
actually.
should.
Yeah, I should, because my brain is filled with psychology, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, you would be perfect for that type of job. Really.
I'm sure I've actually learned a lot about psychology over the years. There has been a bit of a stigma for years about psychology in regards to the fact that sometimes psychology can have a tendency to go a little bit overboard, as is the case in the whole world. The world people I find that there's so many people out there that really are over dramatic, but that'll be an interesting conversation for us to have in the future. Agnes is a wonderful wife and a wonderful mother to two wonderful children, Olivia and Avery, and a husband to Nathan, and just did a big move to Poland, right?
Yep.
So
A lot of changes.
a whole lot of changes, and overall, how was the experience of moving all that stuff?
Moving? Well, I would prefer never to move again. So,
Because of how bad the move was.
well, I mean, the move itself was okay on the average, I suppose. However, my organizational skills as well is below par, if you will. So I
Sounds like me.
really, yeah. I would very much prefer to just kind of hunker down in one spot, be good and comfortable there, have things as organized as possible for my horrible standards of that, and to just not move or, just the whole up and moving and just changing everything about what's going on in your life, like all the changes you have to do with documents and everything else, is just obnoxious. I would just much prefer just to stay one place and that's it.
Yeah, well, when we moved from our first apartment that we moved into when we got married to our first kind of home, a town home, which was a beautiful place. We loved it. We had a lot of support from our church. As a matter of fact, I think we had I don't know, 10 or 15 people at least that came over to our house and helped us unload everything. And I think 2.5 hours or something. So it was amazing.
Wow.
And
awesome.
And we had pizza afterwards, and it was a great time. We invited them in. We got everything together, and then we had a little prayer and blessing for the house, and then it was great. So that was good. So just trying to just explain a little bit of what I want to do at this point is that Agnes and I have been friends for a long time. So I'm thinking it was probably back in. Okay, so I left Bangor, I think, sometime in 2004, maybe. No, wait, hold on. Sorry, not 2004. Was that when I started?